entered court in Manhattan, so we are getting a look at the man who has been charged with killing UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. And you're seeing here all of the security around Luigi Mangione as he makes.
So the Luigi, how do you pronounce his name? Luigi, the Luigi Mangione case?
Luigi Mangione.
That's something brief that I wanted to touched on that. Let me just share this real quick.
A smiling and expressive Luigi Mangione returned to a New York courtroom on Monday for hearings over whether prosecutors can use his police statements at his murder trial. The 27-year-old was arrested in December 2024 and charged with fatally shooting UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a sidewalk in Midtown Manhattan. Mangione has pleaded not guilty to murder and other charges and is expected to face trial next year. While public officials condemned the shocking assassination, he became a folk hero to some Americans who decry steep healthcare costs. Some of them held up signs saying "Free Luigi" outside the courthouse. Inside, videos were played showing police talking to him at a McDonald's for more than half an hour before he was arrested. Mangione's defense attorneys claim that his statements to police are inadmissible because they failed to advise him of his rights against self-incrimination. The defense lawyers are also seeking to block prosecutors from presenting evidence police say was found in Mangione's backpack, including a 3D printed gun, a silencer, electronic devices, and journal writings that appear to implicate him in the killing. Prosecutors have opposed his requests to suppress the evidence and denied his claims that he was illegally searched and questioned. The hearings could last all week and feature testimony from witnesses involved in Mangione's arrest in Pennsylvania. He has also pleaded not guilty in a separate federal case where prosecutors plan to seek the death penalty.
Yes, sir. How you doing? Good. Put your mask down real quick for me? Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. What's your name?
Mark.
What is it?
Mark.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
Mark what?
Rosario.
Rosario? Someone called tonight. They thought you were suspicious.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you have your ID on you?
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Thought she looked like someone guilty to even run somebody. Where are you from? 26, 27, 29 out of New Jersey.
You talked about often how, especially these big trials, it takes time. You don't just get a court date the next month, right? You have to prepare. Just like the Carmelo Anthony, the incident happened last year in March or April? Well, his trial doesn't start until June of this year. The same situation with Luigi Mangione. So this news outlet, Juris News, right? They've been following day by day. But this is just the pre-trial. So just a quick to bring you up to speed. Day 9, this is before the New Year's, December 20th. It says Luigi Mangione is accused of fatally shooting Brian Thompson, CEO of medical insurance company UnitedHealthcare, on December 4th, 2024. And look, it was December 2025. They're just starting a pre-trial, where he faces 25 years to life in prison and multiple weapons offenses. Mangione was arrested on December 9th, 2024 in Altoona, Pennsylvania, a city approximately 280 miles from New York City, 5 days after the shooting. While the arrest occurred in Pennsylvania, he is being prosecuted in New York State where the alleged crime took place. The suppression hearings pre-trial proceedings where a judge decided what evidence can be used at trial, determined what evidence from his Pennsylvania arrest can be used in a New York trial. Mangione pleaded not guilty to all charges in late December of 2024. The prosecution and defense completed their presentations on December 18th, concluding 3 weeks of suppression hearings in New York State case against Mangione. The prosecution called 17 witnesses from Mangione's December 9th arrest in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The defense called no witnesses. No trial date was set. Judge Gregory Caro announced the litigation calendar. Defense filings are due by January 29th. Prosecution's response by March 5th. Judge ruling on May 18th. Mangione's next New York State hearing was scheduled for May 18th as well, at which time the judge may set a trial date. So the judge is going to set the trial date on May 18th. So that's almost 6 months from now. However, what did come up here is federal prosecutors this past Wednesday downplayed a purported conflict of interest from U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, whom Luigi Mangione claims is treating him unfairly as high-profile murder case weaves its way through the justice system. Mangione, who is charged with the fatal shooting of the UnitedHealthcare CEO, claimed that Bondi should recuse herself from the case since she used to be a partner at lobbying firm that did work for UnitedHealthcare. But those claims of conflict are meritless, the government said in a Wednesday letter, arguing that Bondi has cut off financial ties with Baylor partners.
Well, what'll happen is they just need a special prosecutor. It happens quite a bit, more than you'd think. No big deal. Nominate somebody, and if the appropriate body approves them, then you have a special prosecutor. That's not his real problem. The law is long established that you can prosecute a crime where it occurs or where it originates. And where it originates is where the intent is developed or originates. Classic case comes out of California. It's more than 55 years old, and what happened was this. Somebody had a lot of money and was going to contribute that money to a tribal revolutionary matter that was going on in Africa. So some people induced this guy to leave California and go to an unknown country in Europe to discuss this, and he never got back. Nobody was found, and there are no witnesses. So the prosecution said the guy's missing because he's dead. The crime originated in California, so we have jurisdiction. They proceeded. They convicted him, and it went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court held that since the crime originated in California, California had jurisdiction. The fact that the person is still missing, well, that's a matter of proof and a matter of inference, which the jury properly drew from the evidence. And the fact that they have no body and no witnesses is essentially irrelevant when it comes to the actual fact of the killing. Now, that's 55 plus years old, that case. Still good law.
Now, by
the way, I have a hookup with that because they provide services under that 20% additional supplementary coverage you have to get to cover the part of your medical bills that Medicare does not embrace. It's a ripoff.
UnitedHealthcare has denied my pre-authorization for my radical hysterectomy and treatment for my very severe endometriosis pretty much 4 hours before my surgery is supposed to start. I'm already here at the hospital. I'm already set up. I've got my IV going. And my surgery is scheduled for 12:05, and apparently UnitedHealthcare can't meet with my doctor, my surgeon, until noon, and they're requiring to do a peer-to-peer review of the needs for my surgery because they are deeming it not medically necessary. To be clear, I was diagnosed with severe endometriosis, stage 4, and frozen pelvis back in 2018, which I didn't even know that I had after asking many, many doctors for help until we tried to have kids. And when I started doing IVF, we realized, oh my gosh, you have really advanced endometriosis. My uterus is pretty much fused to both my bladder and my bowel. It's called frozen pelvis. Everything on my insides have been stuck together for years, which caused significant back pain, cramps, heavy periods. So we are literally waiting to the last minute to see if we're actually going to move forward with this surgery or not. I know that I'm not the only person out there who's had to deal with insurance companies and all the crap that's going on, but it's just astonishing to me that this is the world that we live in and that insurance is doing this mostly for money. And I'm relying on a doctor from an insurance company who's never met me, who's never felt my bowels, who's never felt anything or talked to me, has any idea about my experience, is out there making a decision for me after I've spent a full day on a liquid diet, doing a bowel prep, haven't eaten, nothing like that. I'm already hooked up. What are they going to do? Are they still going to deny it? This is crazy. Anyway, stay tuned. Hopefully I'll know in the next hour after my doctor's had a chance to meet with UnitedHealthcare on the phone to advocate for me. If all goes well, it should be a 4 or 5 hour surgery, and hopefully I'll get out, but I'm just in a waiting game right now. It's insane.
I found out I was pregnant and I'm now almost 16 weeks. I live in Florida and I don't have health insurance. I tried applying for Medicaid, but I got denied. I'm a server and I make decent money, but I thought I could qualify for some kind of financial help. I tried applying through healthcare through the marketplace. I make too much money for that, apparently. So I don't know much about insurance, right? But I went in person to Florida Blue and asked them for help, right? I got quoted minimum $522 for the insurance I want. The one I would actually probably get is $775 per month, and that doesn't include the cost of delivery and all that. How are people affording this much money a month? How could you afford to have a baby? This is ridiculous. That, I just don't get it. I don't get it. If you know of any hacks to get health insurance in Florida for cheaper, I don't qualify for Medicaid and I don't qualify for Marketplace, or if you're an insurance broker that could help me out, let me know.
Well, there are some people who don't look at Luigi as the bad guy.
No, they don't.
Because of this healthcare Ponzi scheme we have in the United States of America.
It's exactly that's the problem. He's a folk hero, a Robin Hood, but
dozens of deranged fans lined up for hours outside of a Manhattan courthouse awaiting their anti-hero Luigi Mangione on Monday. One fan who spent $150 on an Uber to get to the courthouse told the Post, quote, "It's important for me to be here because he's innocent." Now, let me paint a picture here. There are extremely limited seats in court. So when I say they lined up for hours, I mean 4 or 5 a.m. in the freezing cold. Another fan, for lack of a better word, who waited in that cold and still missed getting in by 2 spots, told us, quote, "I'm just here to support Luigi and fight against stigma against mental health issues." Inside the courtroom, Mangione was dressed in a gray suit and expensive checked shirt with his trademark coiffed eyebrows. And those eyebrows were a big part of the day's proceedings. If you need a refresher, the hearing concerns whether or not certain evidence will be admissible in his state murder trial. The evidence in question is his backpack and its contents, searched at the Altoona, Pennsylvania McDonald's where he was captured, and whether or not police needed a warrant. In a 911 call played in court, the McDonald's manager says, quote, "I have a customer here that some other customers were suspicious of, that he looks like the CEO shooter from New York." They then described what he was wearing and added, quote, "The only thing you can see is his eyebrows." The hearing continues today, and I will be on top of any major updates.
You know, I was up so early this morning in reading, and I ran across the arraignment of Luigi Mangione this week in his appearance at court. And the officer who escorted him in, you could see Mangione whispering something to him with a smile and somewhat bewilderment. And I was always curious what was said, and he finally, the officer revealed that Mangione whispered to him, "All these people are here for a mass murderer." Wow. Man, I was struck by that. These people are here for a mass murderer. Wow. There are people who are feeling that he should get away with it. They don't believe in capital punishment. And you have people out here rooting for him to get away with it. Totally exonerated. No thought, no rhyme or reason for the victim. I just cannot tell you how disheartening this is.
The thing of it is, Robin Hood did what he did. Historically, they actually have ancient English court records that refer to a Robin Hood at about the time that the fictional Robin Hood was supposed to have existed. But Robin Hood was willing to pay the cost if he got caught. That's sort of what goes on. Nowadays, these characters don't want to pay the cost. In other words, if you say it's righteous and you want to play kamikaze, well, like the Japanese rookie pilots who became kamikaze did. They said, our personal sacrifice in death is worth what it does to the homeland and the emperor. And they willingly gave up their lives to attempt to crash into the American naval forces gathered around Okinawa and other places. You make these sacrifices. That's what happened with 911. You got a number of people that practiced, rehearsed, and hijacked 4 airliners, crashed 1 into the Pentagon, crashed 2 into the Twin Towers, and some heroic passengers sacrificed their lives, and another one crashed in a field. So people decided that the cause of the circumstances merited sacrificing their own lives, and they gave them up. Perhaps that's what was going through this guy's mind, and it is what it is, but that doesn't mean his conduct is excused because somebody thinks it's a worthy cause.
Now, let me ask you this one last question on this. Do you think that he was hired as a hitman, or do you think he was trying to be a Robin Hood?
I don't know. And I don't even think it might have been a Robin Hood. He might have been just weak-minded and got inflamed by the circumstances. He may have had a relative or something that got ripped off. He may have heard it and got enraged. He may have said, hey, there's something I can do. I don't know. You get people who are not like you and I, or most people, the average, the normal person, and what sets them off can be very surprising. We've had people, I dealt with somebody that quite literally, the court's gonna, before the court pronounces sentence, you've been convicted by the jury, why'd you do it? Well, he was looking at me funny. Really? Well, what do you mean funny? Did you know him? No, I didn't know him. Well, why'd you kill him? Because he was looking at me funny.
Well, this year is...
What is the likelihood that this judge is going to dismiss that charge that carries the possibility of a death penalty?
it's a real legal determination about how the murder took place, the gun violence charge, the stalking charge. There's a lot of elements that have to be met to reach a death penalty conclusion, a death penalty eligible conclusion. I don't know. The judge, who's a relatively new judge, she's a former federal prosecutor, a very well-known former federal prosecutor, appointed by President Biden. New York City, the death penalty, it's not usually a big conversation.
Right.
So, I don't know the answer to the question, which way the judge is going to come down. I would be more surprised if she says it is death penalty eligible than if she says, no, I don't think this is a death penalty.
Okay, so in layman's terms, because you and I were talking about this before we came on the air, so if she decides that, yes, that one charge will remain in place and he does face the possibility of the death penalty, in layman's terms, so the average person can understand, how does that make the case more difficult and actually longer?
Well, it just heightens everyone's alertness or awareness, but also the jury selection portion of it becomes much more difficult. There's usually now a questionnaire, and you get into people's feelings about the death penalty and whether it should exist or shouldn't exist, and will you have the ability as a juror to say, yes, this case, we find him guilty of a charge where he's now facing the death penalty. Also, my understanding is the government usually appoints another lawyer to the team, someone who is death penalty certified as a lawyer, who's tried a death penalty case, has gotten special training, because in the United States of America, a defendant who's going on trial for a case where they could end their life, we want to make sure all of their constitutional rights are protected to really the highest degree possible.
Going to be a busy year when it comes to high profile cases, so we're going to stay on top of it, and we'll know by May 18th.
There looks like it's going to be a bunch of assassination.
May 18th is when the judge may issue a trial date. So if he issues a trial date on May 18th, that may take us into 2027.
Yeah, why don't the jackasses in the media just say there is a report date set for such and such, where the parties report back to the court the status of the case and their preparations to proceed. They keep saying it's set for, no, it's called a report date.
Well, why are you spreading out these dates?
Because it's complicated.
Okay.
The average lawyer, prosecution or defense, can't spend all of his time. The best defense lawyers don't have just one case. That's these jackasses in these big firms that get paid outrageous and obscene fees that don't know what the hell they're doing because they haven't done it much. The real in the trenches trial lawyers that can give you defenses, like probably the most realistic I've ever seen was Al Pacino in Justice for All. By the way, watch that movie if you want to see how it really works. And those characters, including the plate throwing thing, I've actually seen in the courts around here and been present during a lot of those things. But anyway,
how did Diddy get it? His court date was kind of quick. It was
that was because it was persecution. What was going on, and I firmly believe this, is it was an effort to protect certain of the political players that were involved, to wit Kamala Harris and her bunch. Now, that's what I think pressured what was going on. It was an ordinary thing. It was just a classic example of what pimping is really about. It's really atrocious, but folk ideate on it now because the media has glorified it for 50 years. Hey, man, it's about pimping, man. Yeah, man, pimp your ride, man. That pimps are filthy, like I'm fond of saying. As many as I used to represent, they got the rent paid. They took care of the secretary being paid, the car note being paid in part. The only people in the penitentiary that suck more dick than a pimp are the pedophiles. And that's the way of it. Now they've been glorified thanks to some PR that was attendant on that circumstances and glorifying stuff like, what was it, the Mac? And the star in that used to go to junior high school with me at John Muir Junior High School on Vermont Boulevard in Los Angeles. And let me say this, the individual actor was very far from the character that he played. But anyway, that's another thing. They've been glorifying this stuff for a long time.
Right.
So it's pretty bad, but they glorified this, and he probably had 15 years worth of recordings on those people that he had reason to be apprehensive of doing something against him. He had a lot of freak in his nature vis-a-vis, what he and his girlfriend were doing with the gigolos come in the cup, sick as that was. But I think he probably, over that 15-year period, recorded the wrong people, and somebody took advantage of those people being associated with the reins of power, and they went and grabbed him, and they put that international terrorist provision in there so he could be held incommunicado. But anyhow,
Okay.
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Just don't let it happen again. You know how you don't let it happen again? Be sure that you don't put one of those sleazy son of a bitches in office that is a closet fascist. And the ones that are the real fascists are not the ones that are being portrayed as the fascist. The real fascists have flipped the script, and they are accusing the people who are trying to protect you from that kind of thing.